That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? So Snow White, already having been unseen, the most hated movie of the year that nobody has seen. The first reactions are coming out. And even from a number of people that I personally know have totally been hating on this movie, have begrudgingly been saying, you know what, it's pretty good. They're coming out and saying it's pretty good. Now, look, I have straight up not liked the last couple of Disney movies that have come out, right? I did not like Mufasa. I did not like Captain America, Brave New World. I didn't think either of those films were terrible, but they weren't good. And, I mean, Mufasa made a hell of a lot of money, made over $700 million, good for them. But I just have not been tremendously or particularly impressed with Disney's offerings as of late. And while I've been one of the only people that have kind of liked the trailers for Snow White, I admit I've had not a lot of belief in it. I'm not exactly the president of the Gal Gadot fan club. But I've had an open mind. Well, as they were saying, has been basically a campaign raged by a lot of people against the film because they don't like certain things that, you know, one of the stars of the film, Rachel Zegler, believes or thinks about the original or anything like that. Whatever. People bringing their agendas to whether or not they want a movie to succeed or not. And a number of those people went to go see this film. A number of them who don't like Rachel Zegler, a number of them who have not had any faith in this movie. And surprisingly enough, it's getting really good reviews right now. Variety is headlining this. Snow White first reactions praise the film as a visual feast and one of Disney's best live action remakes in years. Now, we're going to go in and read some of the reactions. I want to point out that none of them, or few of them, are saying like, this is the greatest movie of all time, or this is the best live action remake. They're not, but they're just all sound shocked. They all sound surprised. So let's jump into a couple of these. First of all, from Variety itself. Variety film reporter Katzy Steffen praised star Rachel Zegler as, quote unquote, a shining super. By the way, I want to point out, not all, but most of these reviewers we're about to read have also, like me, not liked the last couple of Disney films. Anyway, Rachel Zegler is a shining supernova, adding that the film is a visual feast with show-stopping new musical numbers and, of course, dozens of enchanting animated animals. The screenplay wisely gives its heroine newfound depth through her fervent desire to become the leader her father believed she could be, and a love story that's sweet as apple pie. Skylar Schuler wrote, "Listen, I was worried, but let me tell you, Snow White is pure Disney magic. This will end up being a lot of people's favorite live-action remake. If you enjoyed Aladdin or Cinderella, you'll be happy." By the way, Cinderella is my favorite of their live-action adaptations, and I loved Aladdin as well. Screen Rant wrote, "Despite the Bob being all over the place, Snow White is quite charming. The message lands well, the critters are adorable, and Rachel Zegler and her enchanting voice are stunning. It almost got a full tear out of me, and I've never cried in my entire life." Christopher Mills wrote...
Sounds like they could use some help.
Christopher Mills wrote, "The biggest surprise of 2025 is that the most controversial and hated film of the year is actually a decent live-action movie. Snow White is not only one of their best live-action remakes, but it's also a movie that recaptures the magic of the 1937 movie. Rachel Zegler is Snow White, and she delivers a magical performance. The musical numbers are unforgettable. The visuals, not the uncanny dwarves, are enchanting, and Aaron Cressida Wilson's screenplay provides depth to this world that I didn't know it needed." Matt DeGroot wrote, "Despite becoming an internet punching bag, Disney's remake of Snow White is actually mostly successful. Rachel Zegler is an absolute star. Most of the new songs are catchy and beautifully performed, and the visual palette is sumptuous and vibrant. Gal Gadot had beautiful gowns. It's solid 3.5 out of 5.
What a backhanded compliment to Gal.
She had great
And
wardrobe.
she looked really pretty.
And
She had
her
great
clothes
wardrobe.
were really nice.
That's like when you go to a stage play and you're like, I loved the lighting.
It was
The
tremendous lighting.
sets were so good.
Very done.
The seats were
Professionally
quite
done.
comfortable. One last one
Bathrooms
here.
are clean.
Filmhound
Bathrooms
wrote,
are clean.
"I may regret saying this, but Snow White is solid. I really enjoyed the musical numbers, particularly the opening one and the Queen's Evil Bop. Ziegler was great in the lead role, and Gadot was fun. it's really the CGI dwarves that let the film down. The choice is baffling. So we hear it from a couple of people, even like others praising the CGI, saying, but I didn't really like the dwarves. You know what the funny thing is? For me, the dwarves is the one thing that I have not been worried about. I actually like the decision to make the dwarves look like the original things. And remember, dwarves, like Lord of the Rings, are not the way we understand dwarves today. Dwarves, in the sense of fiction, are mythological creatures. These are not what we call dwarves in the real world today. These were mythological creatures, and I personally didn't mind it. I had my apprehensions about the movie, but the dwarves was not one of the things I had a problem with. That being said, I was telling everybody before the show started, I personally have an acquaintance from one of the major trades who absolutely, I give them a hard time about it, absolutely hates Rachel Ziegler. Hates her. And fired off a text when I saw the first reactions came in. I suspected they may have gone to this screening as well. So I texted, did you see the new Snow White with everybody? And if so, what do you think? And he wrote back, it's good, so what? Like, that was the response. It's good, so what? Very begrudgingly. Look. First of all, cue the incels. Disney paid the critics to say good things. Yeah, cue that. That's as predictable as the sun rising. But putting that nonsense aside of those losers. Look, I have not seen this movie. I still have some apprehension about it. I mean, I have no apprehension about Rachel Zegler. She's a star. I mean, she's, whatever you think about her off camera, she's a star. West Side Story. She was the best thing about that mid Hunger Games movie that they put out. I've never been the biggest fan of Gal Gadot as an actress. Everybody knows that. But the preview stuff they showed us looks like she's starting to find her groove. That being said, I may like the movie, I may hate it. But the thing that has really surprised me is hearing from a number of people that I know have doubted this movie, coming out and saying, not coming out and saying it's the greatest movie of the year, but coming out and going, this movie's solid. That to me is quite surprising. Now, obviously there's going to be a lot of people online that this could be the greatest movie of all time. They're still going to say it sucks. This movie could make $1 billion. It won't, but this movie could make $1 billion and they'll still call it a flop. But once you just shove that noise out of the way and you're just left with regular average moviegoers going to see the movie, what do they think about it? I got to tell you, this is pretty encouraging, especially coming off the mixed initial reactions we had for Captain America and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's not just anybody coming out. It's a lot of people who had doubts, and including some people I know that straight up did not want to like it. Doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Doesn't mean you're going to like it. But it's at least a positive sign at this point. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Betterhelp. Listen, guys, you know if you've been listening to me for any amount of time that I really believe that we need to start prioritizing our mental health. I often compare it to this. You know, when we go to the gym to get ourselves more physically healthy, we see that as a positive step. We need to start looking at our mental health the same way and prioritizing our mental health. And that's where Betterhelp comes through. Therapy should feel accessible, not a luxury just for people who have lots of money. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. If you want to look at the numbers, traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up fast. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. Anyway, Rob, you've heard a bunch of these initial reactions. You've talked to some people who have seen it themselves. What do you think about what we're hearing?
Well, first of all, Mandy Walker, who shot this movie, was the last interview we had on Designing Hollywood. She also shot Elvis. And, after talking to her, she was absolutely delightful. I'm a huge fan of hers, especially when she said at the very end, I asked her, if you could shoot any kind of movie, what would you want to do? And without missing a beat, she said, I want to shoot a James Bond movie.
Ooh.
So, Jeff Bezos, you want your first female cinematographer, Mandy Walker. She shot Elvis.
The cinematography in Elvis was so good.
Unbelievable. She's amazing. So, after talking to her, and Mark Webb directed this,
Yep.
all the way back to 500 Days of Summer?
500 Days of Summer, The Amazing Spider-Man, which I really liked.
And I'm a huge fan of his. So from a technical standpoint, and the people from behind the scenes, I never want a movie to be bad. I want movies to be good. So I already was down with the technical team. And whenever I get to interact with somebody who's part of that, like Mandy Walker, I become even more team whatever movie they're working on, in this case, Snow White. But what's really weird is we have to stop translating our personal feelings over somebody's real life actions. Rachel Ziegler's young. She's young. When I was in college, I was full of piss and vinegar. Not that I'm not right now too, but I said a lot of stupid shit. Publicly, privately, dumb. And we can't expect everybody. I mean, she's obviously a talent. She was great in West Side Story.
Oh, she was so good in West Side Story.
And I don't know her personally, and there's a lot of stupid things I think she said publicly, and there's a lot of things I vehemently disagree with her.
I've heard her say some things. I've never seen her say one thing that is remotely offensive. I've certainly seen her say things that people would say, "Oh, I disagree with that." But I've never understood the vitriol that she gets.
And I think that Disney's track record with their live action remakes, while do I think it's a ridiculous cash grab? Yes. But on the other hand, that's what they're supposed to do. They're a company. They're supposed to do things to make money. And like we saw, if you look at everything, they've done some really interesting stuff like Maleficent, which I thought was not entirely successful, but I understand why they did it. That idea was cool. But doing Cinderella, doing Aladdin, things in Mulan I really liked. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The Lion King was pushing effects technology further than we'd ever seen it push before. So there's reasons to do this in addition to making money. Now, I thought some of these choices, and I know you like the dwarves, I would have liked to have seen Peter Jackson's Hobbit dwarf team to come in and be in this movie.
Use forced perspective.
Or find actual people, actual little people to come in and play these roles like they did with a movie like Time Bandits, which I thought was delightful. But barring that, I don't go into something like this wanting to hate it or wanting to see it fail. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And the fact that I kind of love the fact that they're going to pull this one out, because all the way up, they've canceled the premieres. I don't think that has anything to do with the quality of the movie.
They didn't cancel it. They still did the premiere, but it was scaled down a little bit.
But I think that had nothing. I think it was more to do with politics than anything else, about certain people's politics, and that not Rachel Ziegler's. And I think that that if this is a win, again, it's great for the movie theaters. It's great for movies. It's great for the business. It's great for little kids whose first experience with Snow White is going to be this movie. It might make them go back and see the wonder of the original Snow White. There is only an upside if this movie is successful on every level. And I want to see Mandy Walker shoot the next James Bond movie. And if this movie is successful, she's got Elvis and this on her resume that she can proudly go to Jeff Bezos and say, I want to be the first woman that shoots a James Bond film. So here you go. You go, Mandy Walker.
So, Chris, looking at this movie, I was not... Again, while I like the trailer, I didn't have a lot of belief that the film could be that good. I wasn't expecting a train wreck like some people were, but I don't know, hearing that it's pretty solid and hearing from the people who are saying it's pretty solid, I don't know. Are you surprised to hear this? What are your expectations right now?
I'm very surprised because these trailers have not looked good to me. And I say this as a person who does not have a problem with Rachel Ziegler. The dwarves, I think, are very, very spooky looking. And it does give me comfort that some other people were like, yeah, the movie's fine. Those are not. Those are still weird. So that at least expectation is being met. I've always planned to go see it. I just also wasn't excited about seeing it. This does move the needle a little bit of, hey, maybe I'm going to go and have my mind change, which is the hope every time, like Rob was saying. Every time I go to a movie that I'm not too excited about, I hope that it changes my mind. I hope that I go and go, wow, I'm actually really glad I saw this. This was great. Or at the very least, you see a movie that's bad and you go, hey, there's some things I took away from this to know that in my own career I'll try to avoid. Or this is something that could have been reworked. Or, hey, I really liked the dresses that Gal wore.
Nice callback.
Thank you.
Look, I straight up don't know how well this movie will do. I really don't. Like, you could tell me this thing opens, I think it's tracking right now for 50 to 60 million, which, by the way, far outpaces what Mufasa opened with, and that movie went on to make $700 million. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it opened to 100 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it opened to 30. I really don't know. It needs about 450 million or so to break even, because the movie has about a $200 million production budget. They dropped about 100 mil on the marketing of it. They've marketed pretty hard. And of course, the break even point is usually, generally speaking, just to give you a rough guess, production budget plus marketing budget plus 50%. Production budget plus marketing budget plus 50%. That's generally speaking what a movie has to make to break even. So Snow White's break even point is a ridiculously high $450 million just to break even. I don't know if this movie breaks even, but everybody railed about how Little Mermaid was gonna sink and it was gonna suck and it was gonna flop. It ended up making money, made $500 million. Everybody talked about how Mufasa was gonna completely flop. It made $700 million plus dollars. Everybody talked about how nobody's gonna, after Barbie's gonna have a big opening weekend and then it's gonna have the biggest drop off ever. Barbie went on to be the biggest box office movie of the year. I simply have no guess. I just don't know. I do think, though, just by being called Snow White, it has a shot at that 450 million. But I don't know. This could be a $800 million film, could be a $200 million film. I really don't know. Where would you guess it at, Rob?
I think this movie's going to be huge.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what people always discount? They discount the female audience in all those things. Think about that. The Little Mermaid. I mean, it's not that guys won't see it, but it appeals to female audiences. People said Captain Marvel was going to fail. It made $1 billion. You know what the thing about this movie is? Women go see this. Mothers take their daughters. Mothers take their young kids. I mean, this movie is going to be the kind of movie that is going to appeal to families in a huge way. And especially, you know, its mothers are going to go with their daughters more than once. And this movie's going to make
if it's good.
Yeah.
If it's good.
Yeah.
But
So you see it crossing that $450 million mark.
Easily. I think easily this movie, look, even a friend of mine, my friend Rob, who works in exhibition, he came out of this and he called me up. He goes, you know what? Snow White's pretty good. And he said, I liked it more than I liked Mufasa. And I was like,
that's not hard. I mean,
I know, but I was like, come
good.
on, dude. And he goes, no, I really did. And for him to say this, I mean, he's looking at movies in a different way now that he's in exhibition. He goes, this is a good movie. And when he said that to me, I was like, wow. Because, and then here's the thing. We have to be able to take our own personal views away. You have to be able to look at something objectively, and you might hate everything about the movie. But you need to recognize if something is good, you got to give it credit, because if it makes money, it's proven you wrong.
Like Star Trek.
We're gonna end on that, folks. So
no, listen. And from a personal note,
I love you.
just be better. All I'm not asking for a lot from Snow White. I'm not. I just be better than Mufasa and Captain America: Brave New World. Again, I didn't think either of those movies were terrible. I just didn't like them. And if this can just be better than those two, I'll come out happy. I'll come out satisfied. You know, I don't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, you get some from major trades like Variety saying this thing's great. Get some people who are saying, like, I don't even like these people, and I thought the movie was good. Who knows? Doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Doesn't mean you're going to like it, but I am surprised to hear these things. What are you surprised about? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.